Welcome to Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free, a podcast for people who are ready to clear the physical, the mental, and the emotional clutter that's been weighing them down. I'm Melanie Cohen, your host, coach, and guide. Each week, we talk about the clutter you can see and the clutter you can't. The stuff in your home, the noise in your head, the expectations, habits, and unmade decisions that quietly drain your energy. This isn't about perfection or minimalism. It's about creating space for what actually matters in this season of your life. Let's lighten up together, starting now. Welcome back to another episode of Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free, the podcast where we talk about all things clutter. I want to give you a little bit of a rundown on September because it's going to look a little different around here. I want you to know about the episodes that I'm bringing to you in September because it all fits in a theme. I'm bringing you 5 conversations that explore clutter through a lens we haven't really explored very deeply. There's been an episode here or there, but this month is going to be about spirituality. So before some of you hear that word and think this month's episodes are not going to be for me, stay with me for a minute because spirituality can mean a lot of different things to different people. For some, it's deeply connected to religion. For others, it's about intuition and energy, nature, ritual, or just connection. It can mean believing in something bigger than ourselves. And for some of us, spirituality is very complicated. So what does any of this have to do with clutter? A lot. Because not all clutter is something that we can see or touch. Sometimes what weighs us down are the beliefs, expectations, fears, identities, unresolved emotions, and outside voices that we've accumulated over a lifetime. Sometimes there's so much noise we can't even hear ourselves think. So this is what I want to explore in September. I'm not trying to convince you to believe in anything. I'm curious about whether spirituality in its many different forms can be another tool for creating space. And the reality is, I have experienced it already just interviewing these 5 incredible women. So throughout the month, each of these incredible women approaches that question from a completely different direction. You'll meet Helen Kaczynski, who's an animal communicator and life coach. This is definitely a first for the podcast. We talk about our relationships with animals, including animals who have died, and the emotional weight of love, attachment, grief, and loss. We also explore what our animals might teach us about being present and whether these relationships can help us process and release some of the weight that we're carrying. You'll also meet Dina Barron, who works with tarot, astronomy, symbols, intuition, and numerology, which is my favorite part of the conversation. Dina and I explore clutter created by all of those outside voices, the rules and expectations, the opinions, the shoulds that make it really difficult to hear what we actually think and want. Can tools like these help us quiet some of that noise, recognize patterns, and trust our own intuition? You'll have to listen to find out. We're also diving into the world of dreams with Angela Shelby. Dreams might give us a window into the things our minds are still processing when we're not consciously thinking about them. Fears, experiences, recurring patterns, unresolved emotions. Angela and I talk about what our dreams might be telling us and whether paying attention to them can help us understand some of the mental and emotional clutter that's underneath the surface. I spoke with Sonia Cruzoro, who brings us into spirituality through travel, pilgrimage, and transformation. I love the clutter connection here because sometimes we have to physically step away from our stuff, our routines, our calendars, our responsibilities, and our everyday surroundings before we can see our lives differently. What becomes clearer when we get away from all that noise? What we do discover we don't actually need, and what might we want to make room for when we return. And we also talk about the world of astrocartography. And if you've never heard that word before, just wait. You'll also hear my conversation with Kate Farness, where we explore human design, intuition, energy, and the clutter that comes from trying to be someone that we're not. how much we are carrying because somewhere along the way, we learned who we should be, how we should operate, and what our lives should look like. And what might we be able to let go of when we better understand and accept who we actually are? Animal communication, tarot, astrology, intuition, dreams, travel and pilgrimage, human design, 5 very different conversations. You may listen to one and, yes, that speaks to me. You may listen to another and say, I don't know if I believe any of this. Good, because curiosity does not require belief. We can listen to something new without immediately deciding whether it's right or wrong. We can ask questions, we can notice what resonates, and we can leave behind what doesn't. And maybe that's a part of decluttering too. We spend a lot of time deciding whether our clothes, papers, commitments, emails, and possessions still belong in our lives. What if we occasionally did the same thing with our beliefs? Is this mine? Do I still believe this? Is this helping me feel more connected to myself, to other people, or to something bigger than myself? Or am I carrying it simply because I always have? If you're listening to this and realizing that you're carrying more than you want to carry, not just the physical stuff, but the mental clutter, the emotional clutter, the digital noise, an overfull calendar, expectations, shoulds, and old patterns too. This is exactly the work that we do inside the Lighten Up Clutter-Free Mindset Method group experience. Over 12 weeks, we go deeper than organizing your stuff. We look at what you're carrying, why you're carrying it, what still deserves space in your life, and what you're ready to release. Because creating a clutter-free life isn't about getting rid of everything. I would never suggest that. It's about becoming more intentional about what gets your space, what gets your time, what gets your attention, and what gets your energy. If these conversations have you thinking to yourself, what am I ready to let go of? And what do I want to make more room for? I'd love to explore that with you. Check the show notes for information about scheduling a conversation with me to see if Lighten Up the Clutter-Free Mindset Method group experience is the right fit for you. Because sometimes the things taking up the most space in our lives aren't things at all. And this September, we're making room to explore. Thank you for listening to Lighten Up the Art of Living Clutter-Free. If this episode resonated, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use just a little bit of lightness. If you're ready for deeper support, you can work with me one-on-one or join my Lighten Up Clutter-Free Mindset group program. You can find all the details at my website, thoughtfullycoaching.com. Until next time, progress over perfection. Messy action is better than no action at all. So let's lighten up.